you're sick of being out-teamed every match, listen up. Go to IGGM.com for cheap and reliable FIFA coins, trusted by players for over 10 years, with 150,000 plus reviews on Trustpilot. Use code RETRO for 8% off and upgrade your squad today. Link in the description. Let's talk about something that can completely change the way you see EAFC and how you approach every single game you play. It's not about skill moves, it's not about custom tactics, and it's definitely not about having the best players. It's about what I call the winning formula. The winning formula is something every top player has, whether they realize it or not. It's that inner structure, that rhythm, that consistency that keeps them calm no matter what's happening on the pitch. When you have a formula, you don't panic, you don't overthink. You play on autopilot because you've trained your pattern so many times that everything just flows. The other day, I was coaching one of my students. He was in Division 5, and instantly I could tell what was holding him back. He was showing his opponent way too much respect. Every time he got the ball, he hesitated. He second-guessed himself, convinced that every lane was blocked, that every option was covered. But I was watching the game, and his opponent wasn't doing anything special. The real problem was the way he was thinking. He was scared to play, scared to lose. And I had to stop him mid-match and say, why are you showing this guy so much respect? Why are you playing like you're scared? Stick to the plan, play your game. And the moment I said that, everything changed. He started trusting himself, trusting the build-up we worked on. And suddenly, he looked like a completely different player. He began to dominate. The same passes that looked impossible before suddenly looked wide open. That's when it hit me again. Most of you lose not because of mechanics or tactics, but because you don't have a formula that you trust under pressure. That's what we're building today. For me, my attacking formula is built around repetition. Every single game, no matter who I'm playing, I follow the same structure because it works. It gives me confidence. It gives me flow. When you watch my gameplay, you'll notice that I'm not doing 10 different things in attack. I'm doing one thing, but I'm doing it perfectly. In a 4-5-1, I'm always looking to trigger my midfielders first. I'll use L1 runs or player triggers to make them move forward. Then I'll player lock into my striker to set up the next phase. The key moment is when that midfielder crosses the opponent's defensive line. That's when I tread the through ball. It's not random. It's a calculated movement that I've practiced so many times that I can see it before it even happens. If that lane closes, I don't panic. I go into the recycling phase. I move the ball out wide, form small triangles between my winger, my fullback, and my central midfielder, and wait for the defense to shift. That's when space opens, either in the middle or on the far side. And when I find that pocket, I reset and go again. That's why I call it a formula. It's not guessing, it's repetition and time in. When I switch to a 4-2-1-3, it's slightly different, but the foundation stays the same. My striker becomes the anchor point. I'll play into him, then trigger both wingers who stay tight near the fullbacks. And from there, I look for those diagonal through balls that split the defense. That's my bread and butter. But here's what most players get wrong. They think you need to play differently every game. You don't. You just need to perfect one system that works for you. If I lose, I don't scrap everything. I don't panic and change formations mid-match. I analyze. I adjust small details. But the core formula stays the same. Because the moment you start switching plans every 5 minutes, you lose rhythm. And once you lose rhythm, you lose confidence. The formula gives you clarity. It gives you control. It lets you play freely because you already know what to expect. That's why I can go into every match calm, confident, and focused because I know exactly what I'm trying to do in every single scenario. And here's something deeper. The formula is not just about tactics. It's about belief. It's about knowing that even if you miss 5 chances in a row, you're still doing the right things. You're not guessing. You're building towards something that will eventually break your opponent down. That's the beauty of it. Once you've repeated your attacking patterns enough, you stop chasing goals and start creating them naturally. Every movement has purpose. Every trigger means something. And that's when you start winning. Not because of luck, but because you've earned control of the game. Now let's talk about the defensive side, because this is where most of you throw away games you should be winning. The biggest problem I see, players panic when they lose the ball. The moment their opponent starts countering, they start dragging center-backs all over the place, pressing with the wrong players, and creating gaps that didn't even exist before. You can't do that. You need structure. And that's exactly what my defensive formula is built on. When my opponent starts countering, the first thing I do, always, is adjust my backline with the right stick. I make sure my defenders back up, and I give my midfielders time to drop back. I'm not sprinting at the ball. I'm not lunging in. I'm letting the opponent run into my defense. The key to defending this year is patience. You have to trust that if you stay in shape, your opponent will eventually make the mistake. Most players panic because they feel like they have to instantly win the ball back. But in EAFC, that's the fastest way to lose. You don't need to win it right away. You just need to contain the attack long enough for your team to recover. Let me give you my 3 golden rules of defending. Number 1, always cut the passing lanes first. Don't chase the player. Block the option. If you close off the lane, the attacker has nowhere to go. Number 2, always track the runs. When you see a striker peeling off your shoulder or a winger cutting inside, follow it early before it becomes a problem. And number 3, never tackle unless you have to. Jockey, shadow, and bait mistakes. 90% of defending this year comes from positioning, not tackles. Now let me break this down even deeper. When I defend, I use my midfielders way more than my center-backs. The midfield is your real wall. If you defend with your center midfielders or center defensive midfielders and force the opponent into wide areas, you'll realize you barely ever need to touch your center backs. And that's exactly why my defensive formula works, because I almost never lose shape. If my opponent's countering, I'll literally switch with the right stick to control my backline manually, backpedal a little, and bait him to take the obvious pass. Once he does, I'm already there to intercept. Most players get cooked in transition, not because they can't defend, but because they're impatient. They chase every ball like it's their last possession. But if you just slow the game down and force the opponent to think twice, they start panicking instead. That's when you win the ball back. And once you do, that's when the winning formula resets. Straight into build-up, clean patterns, patient attack, structured defense. It becomes a loop that your opponents can't handle because they're always reacting, never controlling. That's what I call control dominance. It's when you're dictating the pace of the game, with and without the ball. You're not just playing, you're managing the entire match. And that's the key to consistency. It's not about having one lucky game where everything clicks. It's about being able to reproduce that same level of calm, confident football every single time you play. Because when you have a formula, when you have a clear, trusted system that you've built and refined, there's no fear. You stop playing scared, you stop chasing the game, and you start owning it. Build it, repeat it, trust it. Now, let's get into your comments from the last video. Jido says, good players adapt. True skill gap, isn't just about mastering one specific broken mechanic, but the ability to learn, adapt, and optimize one's gameplay based on the current rule set. The strongest players will analyze the patch, understand what works best now, and find new ways to be effective. They will maintain their edge because their adaptability is superior. However, this doesn't mean they will necessarily find the new style of play more fun. If the patch leads to slower, more defensive gameplay with fewer opportunities to express offensive creativity, fewer goals, less effective dribbling, their enjoyment might decrease, even while they remain at the top. Less adaptable, lazy players, those who perhaps relied on simpler mechanics or were frustrated by complex ones, might find temporary relief if the patch levels the field by making certain skills less necessary, e.g., stronger AI defense compensating for manual errors. But their nature doesn't change. They don't suddenly become players eager to study and master new techniques. The game at that moment might just require less effort to achieve a decent result, or it might reward a more passive play style they already adopted. Come the next patch, which might shake things up again, they'll likely find themselves complaining again if the meta shifts away from their comfort zone. The patch affects the game, not the player. The patch changes the rules of the playground. The most skilled players learn how to use the new swings and slides, even if they perhaps prefer the old ones. Those who are already sitting on the bench might now find the bench more comfortable or closer to the action, but they aren't incentivized to get up and learn how to use the more difficult equipment. The consequence can be a game that, while remaining competitive at the highest levels, becomes less spectacular, more cautious, and potentially more frustrating for those who love more open and technical gameplay. It's an incredibly difficult balance for developers to strike. Absolutely right. I couldn't say it better myself. I think if you're relying heavily on one thing in EAFC, then you're always going to be at the mercy of EASC, because every time they drop a patch, they don't just touch one mechanic, they shake up how the entire game feels. Take the last update, for example. They didn't just nerf R1 dribbling, they changed a bunch of underlying systems. Even the 4-2-3-1 wide that everyone loved doesn't feel meta anymore. So you've got to ask yourself, Why rely on only one or two mechanics to win? Why build your whole game around something that could disappear the next time EA Sports updates the gameplay? There are so many different ways to attack in EAFC, so many ways to defend, and so many ways to build up your play. If your entire identity as a player depends on one mechanic, whether it's R1 dribbling, stepovers, or any single trick, you're putting your success in someone else's hands. And that's exactly why adaptability matters. Because when you understand the full game, when you can mix it up and still perform, no matter what patch drops, you become untouchable. So yeah, absolutely right, Jeddo. I couldn't agree more. My boy, Beast Mode says, a lot of people are just sheep. No one likes to form their own opinion. And when they have their own opinion, it is completely based on emotions. Sometimes, it is better to stop and think about what the real changes are. You can still play beautiful football. Just be patient. Practice a lot if you are not good enough or feel comfortable. Try out formations you like in combination with what your favorite content creator suggests. Just play, enjoy football, instead of constantly using or abusing broken mechanics. Because in every game, especially competitively, they all have broken mechanics. But you are not obligated to play the same way to enjoy whatever game it is. Play like you want to. And if you are not enjoying the game because you are not good enough or comfortable, either practice or go outside and leave gaming alone, LOL. This patch is decent, not perfect, but EA is definitely listening better and improving the game. And obviously, they also make mistakes. Every gaming company makes mistakes, but they are open to learning and adjusting. Just be patient. FC 24/25 were terrible compared to FC 26. You can definitely play football and enjoy this game. EA is finally listening, and honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they even revert parts of this patch. But the good thing is, they're trying. You can tell they're paying attention now, and that's a step in the right direction. But what you said about people losing their heads is a fact. I don't understand how some of you can lose 3, 4, 5 games in a row and still keep queuing up like nothing's wrong. At that point, you're not learning, you're just getting more tilted. If you lose more than 3 games straight, just stop, take a break, go outside, spend time with friends or family, reset your mind. Then when you come back, maybe try a new formation, test a different tactic, or switch up your game plan a little. And listen, it's really important to record your gameplay. A lot of you underestimate how much you can learn by watching yourself back. You'll start to see your habits, your mistakes, and even small things like body positioning or rush passes that you never notice in the moment. That's how pros improve. They study their own patterns. Sometimes, all it takes is that small break and that little bit of self-review to completely flip your form around. You'll start playing calmer, sharper, and more intentional. So yeah, absolutely agree, Beast Mode. Play the game smart, stay patient, keep perspective, and when you're ready, go again. That's how you keep improving without burning out. And that's how you keep enjoying EAFC for the long run. Now there's another key part when it comes to developing a real game plan, and that's knowing your players. It sounds obvious, but you'd be surprised how many people don't actually know who they're using. I see it all the time. Players shooting with their weak foot without even realizing it, crossing with the wrong winger, or trying to dribble with players who move like trucks. You can't expect to build a proper game plan if you don't know your own team inside and out. Before I even load into a match, I know everything about my squad. I'm looking at their weak foots, their body types, their play styles, their agility, their shot power, literally everything. When I choose a player, I'm not just looking at overall rating. I'm looking at how they feel in game. How fast do they turn? How smooth are they when they receive the ball? Do they stay balanced under pressure? Do they have that sharp responsiveness when I need it? All of that matters. Because when you know your players, you make smarter decisions without even thinking. You already know what they can and can't do. You know which side to dribble toward, which direction to cut inside, and which player you can trust in those tight spots. That's what allows you to play with flow and confidence. Not guessing, but understanding. Now let's talk about attackers, because this is where play styles come into the equation. Play styles completely shape how your team performs this year. They're the backbone of the winning formula. The first and most important one you need to look for is incisive. Incisive is the best play style in the game right now for strikers, cams, and midfielders. Anytime I see a player with incisive, I already know I'll be able to play those insane through balls into space. Those perfect line-breaking passes that cut defenses open like butter. Incisive gives your attack that sharp, creative edge. It turns average build-up into lethal passing sequences. The second one is finesse. Finesse is vital for your attackers and your wingers. It gives your shots that curve and accuracy that keepers just can't react to. When you cut inside on your strong foot and hit it with finesse, it's nearly unstoppable, especially if you have precision shooting turned on. The difference in how clean the ball flies off the boot is massive. That's why I always make sure at least one of my forwards or wingers has finesse in their toolkit. The third one is low-driven. This one is for your strikers and cams. Low-driven gives that powerful fast strike that stays low and rockets past goalkeepers before they can even move. It's perfect in one-on-one situations or when you're under pressure in the box. Those are the three play styles that, if you can combine them in your attack, incisive, finesse, and low-driven, you'll notice your whole front line starts to feel dynamic and dangerous. Now, let's talk about wingers for a second. Before the patch, technical was a must-have play style. Players like Lamine Yamal felt absolutely ridiculous because that technical play style gave them that silky control and smooth turning radius. But after the latest patch, that's no longer the case. Technical has been nerfed heavily, and now it doesn't give the same explosiveness it used to. So, what's the move now? You want fast, strong, direct wingers who can hold their ground. Guys like Nico Williams. Wingers who can push off defenders, accelerate down the line, and still have the strength to hold the ball when challenged. That's the new meta. Speed and power matter more than fancy technical movement right now. If you can build a front three where your striker has low-driven and incisive, your cam has incisive and finesse, and your wingers are strong, fast, and confident, you'll notice how balanced your attack feels. Every run has a purpose. Every pass feels connected. Now for defense. Your defenders also play a huge role in your formula, maybe even more than your attackers, because no matter how good your build-up is, if your backline is weak or mismatched, you'll keep conceding easy goals. The most important defensive play style this year is jockey. After the patch, jockey has been heavily buffed, and it's absolutely overpowered. Defenders with the jockey play style move quicker, react faster, and feel smoother when changing direction. That's why cards like Koundé have shot straight to the top tier. They feel locked in, stable, and unbeatable in one-on-one situations. The second one to look for is Bruiser Plus. Bruiser Plus gives your defenders that elite physicality, that ability to shoulder off attackers, win duels, and dominate physically in your box. When you combine Jockey and Bruiser Plus in your back line, you've got the perfect balance of agility and strength. That's the foundation you need to survive counterattacks and one-on-ones. The winning formula doesn't stop at structure. It extends into the players you trust to execute it. If you just build a team blindly, you're setting yourself up for inconsistency. But when you study your squad, when you actually know your players, their footedness, their body type, their responsiveness, and their play styles, you start playing football with intent. And that's where everything starts to click. Because once your tactics, your mentality, and your players are in sync, you'll notice something special. You stop playing scared, and you start playing with authority. You know every action has purpose. You start winning because you expect to win. Inside my academy, I've posted a full detailed video on how to build your team properly around play styles and the current meta. We go position by position, who to use, which traits to prioritize, and how to make your team feel smooth and balanced in every phase of play. You can check that out in the link in the description. And if you want me to personally help you build your own winning formula, not just tactics, but the perfect team for your play style, you can book a one-on-one session down below. We'll build it together, adjust it for your level, and make sure that the next time you go into a match, you're not guessing. You're in control. Thanks for watching, my boys, and thank you for all the support as always. Until next time, peace.